Hello YouTube chess lovers, my friends, this is Gunjan here, and today we are going to learn how to deal with the King's Indian attack. Now the King's Indian attack is very popular in serious tournaments. The simple reason is the system from the white is rock solid and very flexible. White can go either on the queen side, and most likely white will go for the king side attack. And the big plus point is the piece layout of the white is very much fixed. That means you can learn the theory within 1 or 2 hours and you can start playing in tournaments. Now before we move on, let me show you the exact piece layout of the King's Indian attack. So the King's Indian attack start with this move, which is e4, then followed by the move d3, then the knight goes to the d2 and the other knight goes to the f3, and after g3, bishop to g2, castling on the queen side, and c3. You can see by the arrows a very easy and a simple plan of the white. So if the black has gone on the queen side, then white can attack the black on the queen side by throwing a and b pawn up the board, and if the black has gone on the king side, then white can simply play knight to h4 and the f pawn will run down the board with putting the king in the corner. And this is a very easy and very effective plan of the white. Probably you can try in one of your own game and you will see how easy to play as a white. Now the problem from the black side is, if you do not have any system against the King's Indian attack, then you might come in serious pressure, especially in tournaments. So that's why it's very important for you to have some kind of system under your belt for the King's Indian attack. Now the system which I'm going to demonstrate today has two merits. First is, if you do not have any system against the King's Indian attack, then you certainly want to try out this system. And the second big plus point is, if you are a French player and you are having a difficulty against the King's Indian attack, then this is a right opening choice for you. So let's start. White plays e4 and black responds with the e6. So we are starting with the French defense move order, and after d3, d5, knight to d2, knight to f6, knight to f3. The normal move of the French defense move order is c5, but here we will play knight to c6, and after g3 we will put our bishop on a very good square c5, where it can eye up to that f2 square. After bishop to g2, here comes the first twist in the game, because we are going to capture that e pawn. Now if white here foolishly captured by the knight, so for example knight cross e4, then black has a winning position. After knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, then queen takes queen, and after king takes queen, black can simply snap off the f2 pawn. And you can see now, not only white has lost the castle right, but black emerged with a pawn up. So this is a winning position for black. So more general response over here will be pawn takes e4, so d cross e4, and here we will play e5. And you see the big merit of the e5. Now this bishop is looking at his own pawn. The usual line continues with castling on the king side by the white, and black will do the same. And here the most general response of the white will be c3. Now c3 is a dual purpose move. So first of all, you can see the c3 is stopping the knight movement to the d4 and b4, and not only that, in future if white wishes, white can always look out for the right time to play b4. So here there is a golden rule for black. Whenever white plays c3, black has to respond with the move a5, and a5 is not only stopping the b4 of the white, but as you will see the theory of this opening, black wants to play on the queen side, and a5 is a first step towards it. Now the general line continues with the queen to e2 by white, which has the idea of putting the rook on the open file. Black response is pretty much similar, so black will play also queen to e7. And now if white has allowed black to push that pawn, then black has a quick queen side attack compared to the slow white king side attack. So it's very important white has to play here a4. But instead of a4, let's see what happens if white plays a normal looking move, for example rook to d1. Well, if the rook to d1, then very simple answer is knight to g4, so attacking the f2, and that means white has to passively play the rook back to the f1, and white will lose a very important time. And apart from rook to d1, let's say any other moves of the white will allow black to expand on the queen side. So it's very important at this point white to stop the queen side expansion of the black by this move, which is a4. And against this we are going to play this move, which is b6. And now you can see black has created the first threat of the game by screwing queen and the rook by putting the bishop on a6. So white has to respond to this. Now, to give you an illustration how you can play for a win in this kind of position, I have picked one game for you. This game was played by Susan Polgar in the year 1981 in the European Girls Championship. Susan was black. Now Susan's opponent here at this position played knight to c4. But before we look at that, let's see the other options of the white. Now the more natural looking move over here looks like rook to d1, but this is not a good idea for the white, because the very simple answer of the black will be bishop to a6, so attacking the queen. And let's say if the queen goes to the e1, then after knight to g4, white is hard pressed to meet the f2 drop. So that's why queen to e1 is not at all good. So the more general response will be c4, but after c4 black can respond with rook a to d8, and after b3, which has an idea of playing bishop on a long diagonal, black can play bishop to b7, and after bishop to b2, you won't believe, but this is a winning position for black. For example, black can start with this move, which is knight to g4, so attacking the f2, so rook has to come back, but after knight to b4, you can see the knight is coming towards to d3, and then it will attack the f2 again. So for example, if the white foolishly play here h3, then black can simply snap off the f2, and after rook cross f2, black can play knight to d3. So not only it's attacking the rook, pinned rook, but black knight is also attacking the bishop, and black will enjoy the game from here onwards. So that's why, considering all this, Susan's opponent played knight to c4. Here black continues with the bishop to a6, so pinning the knight, and white responded with b3, so protecting the knight. And now black played b4, so it's again attacking the knight, so the white response is pretty much forced. White has to capture that pawn, and then black bishop capture that knight. And here, let's say if queen moves immediately, for example queen moves to the c2, then black can simply capture that knight, and after white recapture, not only white has the crippled pawn, but black has a passer on the a file, and that will be a great asset at the end game. So very wisely here white played knight to d2, so protecting the knight, and black responded with knight to d7. So idea is very simple. Knight wants to go to the b6, where it attacks the pinned knight one more time. So here white responded with queen to e1, and here black responded with rook f to d8. Now instead of rook f to d8, you may be wondering, why not knight to b6 at this point? Well, if knight to b6 has been played at this point, then white can simply reply with the knight cross knight. So not only it's capturing a piece, but it's also attacking the rook. And after c cross b6, white can play this move, which is c4, and that diagonal has been blocked, and white is doing much better now. So considering all this, Susan has not played knight to b6, but instead of that she chose this move, which is rook f to d8. So rook has been put on the same diagonal of the queen. Now her opponent was desperately trying to get off the pawn, so white plays rook to e1. Rook to e1 has one good merit, that because now this knight is become free, but it has weakened the f2 square. and black immediately eyed up. So Susan played queen to f6, attacking the f2. Now here white responded knight to e3. So not only the pin knight comes to the e3 and block the diagonal, but this knight has a future idea of coming to either d5 or the f5. So this knight was so strong that Susan immediately captured that knight, and after rook recaptures, white plays knight to c5. So now you can see three pieces are eyeing up that juicy d3 square, and white has to somehow protect that d3 square. Here white responded with bishop to f1, and Susan captured that bishop, and after white recaptured that bishop, it looks like white has defended that d3 square, but now black plays queen to e6, so taking advantage of another weakness. This is a sign of a very good player. When your opponent defended one threat, the good players like Susan created another threat, and by doing this they are provoking their opponent to make more mistakes, and that is exactly happened in this game. Because of this attack, white plays the only attacking move of this game, which is queen to b5. So queen to b5 not only protecting this pawn, but it also attacking the knight. Here Susan plays the knight to d7, and finally white developed the bishop with bishop to a6. And now because this bishop has been moved from the c1 and then this knight has become weakened, black played a very excellent move, which is knight to f6. Now this move is a very dual purpose move. First of all, it creates a discover attack to the knight, and not only that, you can see by the arrows the very simple and effective plan of the black. So black might wants to play queen to h3 and then knight to g4, which all leads to mate black on h2. So after a long thinking, white responded with rook to e2, so protecting the knight, and here black responded with rook to b8, so attacking the queen. Now white played queen to a5. Right now pause for a moment, because you can see this queen is so far away from this king, and this is the right time to attack, or you switch the attack to the king's side, and that is exactly did by the black. So here Susan responded with h5. Her opponent responded with king to g2. So white desperately wants to stop queen to h3, but nevertheless h4 occurs, and please note g cross h4 will be very, very dangerous, because a simple line can run like this. So queen check, and after king to f1, black can play this wonderful move, which is knight to h5. Although this knight is hanging right now, black has a very cunning idea. So for example, if white capture this knight, then after knight to f5, attacking the rook, f3 by white, and a simple line runs like this. So queen h3 check, king to e1, queen takes h4 check, king to d1, and then knight takes rook, king takes knight, and after queen cross h2 comes with a check, you can see black will emerge with an exchange up and a good position. So that's why g cross h4 will be highly risky. That's why her opponent here played f3, and black responded with rook to d3, so attacking the c3 pawn. White defended with rook to c1, and now the last rook joined into the attack, so rook to d8, so attacking the knight, and the knight drop back to the f1. Here one pawn will be exchanged, so h cross g3, h cross g3, and black responded with knight to h4. White plays bishop to c5, which has a merit of controlling all these dark squares, but the downside is white has allowed black to play this move, which is queen to g6. And now you can see the fourth threat is looming, so white has to play this move, which is king to f2. But here again black responded with very energetically and played rook to d1, so attacking the rook. And probably Susan's opponent was in time trouble. She played this disaster move, which is rook to e1. And I give you few seconds. Can you find a winning move over here for the black? And the winning move is rook to d2 plus, and suddenly white is lost. Let's see how. Let's see the white option now. If the king goes to the e3, then the very simple will be queen g5 plus, and after f5, e cross f5, and if the king goes to the f3, then very simple will be knight to e5 checkmate, and if g cross f4, then after queen cross f4, this is checkmate as well. So king to e3 is a disaster zone for the white. What happens if king goes to the g1? So if the king goes to the g1, then the very simple reply of the black will be knight cross g3, and you can analyze by your own. All the lines leads to the mate, so that is not good either. And the last reply which has been played in the game, Shuzen's opponent captured that rook, so knight cross d2, but the very simple reputation is queen cross g3 check, and after king to e2, queen cross e1 comes with a check, and after king to d3, rook cross d2, and king to c4, queen to e2 is a checkmate. So this is very wonderful game played by the Shuzen, which teaches how to play for the win in this system. I hope you learn and enjoy this system against the King's Indian attack. Please feel free to comment on my video, and I'll meet you soon. Bye.